the New Testament, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness.
Good morning, beautiful people. Welcome to Soul, Light, and Body. Today is such a beautiful day because we're here once again, and we're given an opportunity to make changes in our lives. Wherever you are at this point in time, you can make those changes. You can heal from whatever you're going through. You can heal. But we have to make that conscious decision and choice that we're going to do it. And we got to put in the work. It's not easy. It's not an easy journey. We got to put in the work to arrive where we want to go. And this morning, what a better person is here to really dive deep with us and help us to understand the kingdom within. He is here to share with us his life journey and how he have really worked so hard to arrive to the person that you're seeing here today. And his name is Joan McDonald. I'm Karen Pascal. I'm a holistic health and wellness coach and a co-author of 2 ebooks with my sister, Joan Williams. And we just want to welcome each and every one of you to the show this morning. Grab a notepad, get your pen or your journal, and just make some notes. Because John will be giving us some tools this morning that could help us to move into 2023 with clarity. I'll now hand you over to Miss Joan Williams.
Thank you, Karen. What a beautiful day.
Yeah.
It's Friday. It's the end of the week. We're winding down 2022. And so it's a time that we're trying to gather everything that is good for us that we can put in our toolkits and set that tone to conclude 2022 strong, and then move into 23 with a level of confidence in setting our intentions and help us to live our true essential self. And our guest today is John D McDonald, and he is gonna give us the good stuff. He's coming he's coming with tremendous value, because someone who have walked through life onto this point and has gained tremendous knowledge and understanding of what life is. And that is why the topic is the kingdom within. Because who are we? What are we doing with this thing called life? And so he is going to drive it home. What is the kingdom within? My name is Joan Williams, holistic health and wellness coach, and also co-authored 2 ebooks with my sister Karen. And so just sit back, relax today. Welcome to all of you viewers today, those who watching live and those who is going to be on the replay. Relax. Find a comfortable chair or a spot where you can really sit back, relax, and take everything in, so you can have a good day, and that you have gained, the tips and the tools you've gained, can really move you and that you have a good day. So welcome, John.
Thank you very much indeed, both of you, Karen and Joan. It's lovely to be here, and with you sisters in every sense of the word, really, soul sisters indeed, may I say.
Thank you.
And we are all, of course, soul brothers and sisters in the eyes of the divine true source of it all. And you know, you were saying, who are we? That's a great question, Joe. I can tell you, I'm a nobody. And when you say that John's going to give you this story, that the less John there is in the story, the better the story will be. It's the divine truth. So the more I'm out of the way, and allowing, I've no idea what I'm going to say today. Really, just know that the best way always is to allow it to be divinely orchestrated
Yes,
by
yes,
Holy Spirit, and then the words that need to come out for whoever our dear viewers and listeners might be at the moment will be the right words for the optimal words for all concerned.
yes,
Of course, there's bound to be some egoic persona left. If you didn't have any individuation left whatsoever, you wouldn't know whether to put your spoon in your dog's mouth or your own mouth, really, would you? So as long as we're here incarnated, then there's going to be some ego remaining, to be realistic about it. Yeah. So, I mean, the story of why do I speak about the kingdom within? Well, I mean, it comes from remembering, really, at some point, remembering that verse from the New Testament from Matthew, which says, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all other things will be added." And so I prefer to think of that more so as the kingdom of heaven, really. And we read elsewhere that that kingdom is within. It's all around us too, but it's within. There's as much inner space as there is outer space. When I was a wee boy, they were exploring outer space, and they had when I was a wee boy growing up in the late 50s and early 60s, our comic books were all about going to outer space. They were all about these green spider creatures from Mars and all sorts of stuff that was sheer fantasy when I was a wee boy. This was centuries away. And yet come 1962, the President of the United States was saying, we choose to go to the moon by the end of the decade. And they did by 1969. But it wasn't long. It wasn't many more Apollo missions after that before you realized this is going nowhere, really. So they're bringing back more and more rocks. So, so big deal. What good is that to anybody? When you think what they're spending on bringing back those rocks, if they'd spent that on education and health and what have you. So really, the better journey, the one that saves us, is the journey into inner space. And inner space is absolutely vast. The more we explore it, the vaster it becomes. But how did I come to realize that? Well, I had to be dragged kicking and screaming into it, is the truth, because I started off with really a successful corporate career by my early 30s. I have the big salary, the fancy job title, the top of the range company motor, the hot trophy girlfriend, although she was much more than that. I did love her, and she was a beautiful person. And if she's still with us today, she still is, even more so in her beauty as well. But by all outward appearances, I had all the boxes ticked, you could say. However, there was also alongside this, and the industry I was in was offshore drilling in the North Sea, a hard drinking industry. So it was easy for someone who was developing a drink problem to go unnoticed. Although, that said, by the time you're drinking, dare I say, hairy-assed roughnecks twice your size under the table and wondering what all the fuss is about, you probably ought to be thinking, well, I might be developing a problem here. But I kind of got lost in that company, and so that was increasing all the time. And because if you have a drink problem that's going to become alcoholism, because it's progressive, there came a point where the power of that, so to speak, or the force of that, was greater than my power. So that meteoric corporate rise was followed by an even more plummeting descent that ended up in 2 years of destitute homelessness in the streets of Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. And, if I would have had 2 pesetas to rub together, I would have been 2 pesetas better off. Not that you could even buy anything with 2 pesetas, even in 1994, you couldn't. So, yeah, long story short, I had my alcoholism, hardcore alcoholism, had taken me to rock bottom. I'd bounced along it a couple of times, somehow managed to discover the hidden trap door that there is in rock bottom, and fall through that as well. And eventually my stubbornness had to get converted into determination to save my life. And it wasn't really the material circumstances, though. I guess I'm just somebody who doesn't mind roughing it. I mean, it doesn't bother me if I live in a trailer. Still looking forward to doing some camper vanning. Really, I couldn't care less really about material comfort. But it was the deep remorse inside that eventually was the final straw for me. The shame, the remorse, deep regret about the waste of life, and with no arrogance intended, the waste of talent and all that. And I knew where I had to go, and where I had to go was Alcoholics Anonymous. And I knew that they had a program there that would be the saving of you, and a program that, if we leave the details aside, at its essence was all based around willingness to grow along spiritual lines. It says that's the point, not religious mind, spiritual lines. Although, of course, spiritual lines is going to refer to the great wisdom that's contained with all of the religious traditions agree about the essential core wisdom, and then they get lost in conflict with each other and silly stuff like that. But the wisdom's there at the core of it all. I should have said before I launched on this great big monologue, that I am a typical introvert, actually, in that I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and generally prefer using them in that proportion, although you wouldn't think it the last few minutes, and actually consider myself a better listener than speaker. So the trouble is, when you do get me started, you can have a devil of a job to get me started. So you just have to interrupt me and move me on to the next point or the next question.
Yeah, that's amazing. Of everything that you shared, and you have been through that. What kept you going? How did you find? I know you talk about inner freedom. I know you're a spiritual guide and you're a yogi, but how did you manage to
Yeah,
survive that and come to this point?
it's an amazing question, and it's a great question, Joan, because it reminds me to say that I am as stubborn as I am determined. The two things tend to come together, and really, I had been a rebellion with regards to organized religion, although I'd had a very strong moral Christian upbringing from my mum and dad, and I'm ever grateful for them. And actually, that had probably been the saving of me, because it had kept me from really becoming terribly affected morally. I hadn't really done anything that you couldn't live with, and that had somehow, there had been a conscience always in play, even in the most drunken of moments, that had saved me in a way. But that said, when it came to organized religion, and I still not keen on the G word, honestly, but when it came to organized religion, I was highly agnostic, not quite atheist, but highly agnostic. And so there we were with a program that was, well, step one was easy. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Well, understatement of the century. I should have been seeing that years ago. I was the last one to see it, and anybody else would have seen it. Secondly, came to believe that a power, it does have a capital P, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I was very fortunate to have a sponsor, or padrino, godfather in AA, a generation my senior, who had also come into it very highly agnostic. So he explained to me that what you can do with that is replace power with the fellowship, and just be open-minded and open-hearted, that the fellowship of people who are ahead of you on the journey will be saying things that you can take and apply. Yeah. And then the third step was made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And to be clear, in AA, when they say God as we understood him, it's we, because Bill W is writing on behalf of the first 100 members of AA, and he's reporting what they did to commence their recovery. And that's why it's the first person plural like that. And he said, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Now, this is not some group understanding. This is not some group cult understanding. What that's meaning is, as each individual understood him. And, and today. It probably, we probably should take the gender out of it and say it, really. But this is 1930s, so it's a book of its time, you know. It's dated, really, in the language. And I couldn't do that. So I had to replace that with some other words. And the words I chose were divine providence. And I deliberately mispronounced providence as a verb, to indicate the notion that if I would make some steps in the direction of whatever there might be that's divine, then, and trust that it would come to me as well, that other things would work out, all would be provided. And miraculously, that's pretty much what did happen. And the more that happened, of course, the more your faith was built to go on, and more so commit to it and commit to it and commit to it. And so I realized that this is the kingdom within. And then a few years into it, though, the kind of details of the steps became less important to me, and I became enamored, really, to learn of all the Eastern wisdom traditions, you know, the Sanatana Dharma of yoga, the Buddhist. I have lived in a Buddhist monastery for a year, the Taoist wisdom, all of that. And so I just was called that for me, the yogic way was the way that was going to suit me, this particular individuation. And I love it. I wouldn't change a thing, any of it, really, because without all that went before, none of what came after would have happened, you know.
Exactly. Making that pivot and making that change. And I like how you talk about opening your mind and to receive. I think that is so beautiful. I think we all need to do that. Sometimes we find it difficult to really move in that space.
Yeah.
But then only then we can receive. Yeah, Karen, go ahead.
When someone reaches to that stage of self-realization, what are some of the things they need to start doing to really kickstart that other chapter of their lives?
Mm-hmm. It's different for everyone, you know. When we look at what we might call personal development or the law of attraction stuff, The Secret, and all around that was made popular and famous by Rhonda Byrne, who has, in the last couple of years, though, written another book called The Greatest Secret, as she has come to realize that really that's a small part of something much bigger. But at that stage, there seem to be rules and formulas that work fairly well, fairly consistently for people, for a while at least, until the divine in its mysterious ways throws a spanner in the works somewhere to bring us on to the next stage. Those of us that are fortunate enough that we're going to be brought to the next stage in this lifetime. And our story's written in a way. It's a paradox. It's a curious mixture of free will and destiny. Really, both things are going on, and both true. So, what someone has to do is going to be unique for them, really, because when we move into the spiritual advancement that awaits us beyond personal development, which really is the undoing of the person. That's the spiritual advancement. That's where we get, we begin to, it begins to become an undoing rather than a doing. And another way to say that is the self-realization, capital S, capital R, self-realization that awaits us beyond self-improvement, small self, small I. That's going to be unique. It is unique for everyone, which is why I'm not going to be able to ever write a post that tells you what are the formulas for what's the formula for self-realization. That's why at some point people can do it without a guide. I would be a terrible hypocrite. I like to do it myself. I've liked to do it myself, mostly unguided. I like to read and research and come to my own conclusions and do it that way. So nobody needs a spiritual guide, but it can be helpful at phases along the journey. And so when I'm meeting a new spiritual explorer, as I call them, I don't call them clients, for the first time, for one-with-one, for soul with soul guidance, yeah, unlike today, I'm totally in listening mode, because what I'm going to have to do is understand which of the various possible paths that there are, because on top of the more than 10,000 hours of yogic sadhana or spiritual practice I've done, I've also done more than 10,000 hours of reading and research and practice of modalities of other practices. And for one example, I am also a certified Reiki practitioner, for example, because I don't know why that happened, but I think there must have been some part of me at some deep level that knew that at some future point I might be called to be a guide of some kind. So you have to be versatile, because everyone's different, and also versatile enough to know that you'd actually be better guiding this person on to someone else who would have more depth of knowledge about what's going to be a path forward that's going to suit them. So we're all unique. Now, that said, of course, all with massively huge areas of commonality, and the areas of commonality are increasing the further we go along the journey, because the destination is unitary. There's only one destination, and that's home with a capital H, heaven with a capital H, So it's how do we get there? For me, to my bias, for my preference, the yogic way. And by the way, we're not talking here about what most Westerners think is yoga. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for gymnastic posing and stretching, but it's a tiny sliver of all that yoga is, and relatively trivial, honestly. Asana just means seat. And all that Sri Patanjali has to say about asanas in the Yoga Sutras is to sit for meditation with a straight spine. The main course of yoga is meditation, and then there's the pranayama, the breath work, and all of that. And there's much more value for the buck, much more value for the hour spent in that than there is really. But the hatha yoga is great as well, and it brings a lot of people into that. So that's all wonderful. So there's no one firm answer to your great question, Joan. It's going to be different strokes for different folks, and yeah.
I really like how you bring out that point, because many times we may be looking at someone else's life and we're thinking that is our life. So I really like how you point that out, that we all are on different paths, and your story could help me in some way, but I'm on a different path.
Absolutely.
And that is what we all need to recognize, that
yes,
we all are on a different path.
yes.
But listening to someone else's story, it could help us.
Especially if there are aspects of that story that we happen to identify with. And it reminds me to make perhaps what is an important point to make as well, Karen, because we might have our dear viewer, our dear listener might be watching this, listening to us and thinking, well, goodness sake, I don't know if I could go through 2 years of sleeping rough outside and in destitution. You probably won't have to. If you are having issues with alcoholism or narcotics addiction or gambling compulsion or whatever it might be that is your addicting factor, my story's pretty extreme, pretty hardcore, pretty unusual, which is good in the sense that I'm not gonna meet many people that I can't understand what they went through. But fortunately, most people aren't going, in terms of the material unfolding the story, most people aren't going to have to go through that. My padrino in AA was a man who had never been in financial difficulties, never relationship difficulties, never career difficulties. He just, the effect, his rock bottom was just really what for me would have been just a minor blemish on his self-esteem, a minor embarrassment was his rock bottom. So if you're listening to this and thinking, well, that's because the bad news is you are going to more than likely need to hit or at least touch upon your rock bottom before you'll have the motivation to really do what it takes, which is going to be beyond a certain point. There will be no going back. It's going to be total abstinence and embracing the spiritual solution, whatever that is for you.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be homeless or you're going to be penniless. There's, all kinds of different ranges of experiences. When you go into an AA meeting or a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, Gamblers Anonymous, you'll find, people who have had the whole variety of experiences that's possible. So I hope, I just glad to remember to say that somebody's not just devastated by the thought that they have to go through that to come out the other side. You don't necessarily, probably not.
That is so important.
Yeah.
Talk about the support that is needed for someone who is going through rock bottom and need that support.
Well, I think for me, in terms of finding AA, and I'm not saying by any manner of means that it's the only way. There are lots of other ways. I mean, any meditation group or any group that meets regularly for mutual support. I'm not saying that there isn't, and I'm never going to say there's only one way. Lots of ways to skin a cat, although I'm not intending to take that up as a hobby. Fellowship is going to be important, and one of the main ways in which it's going to be important is going to be that you're going to be in the company of other people that can understand, because it is bizarre to for example, take alcohol, to the normal social drinker or even heavy drinker, because there are heavy drinkers that are not alcoholic. The point with alcoholism is that one is too many because 100 aren't enough. And if you're seeing a doctor about that, unless that doctor's a recovering alcoholic, he or she cannot understand that.
True.
If you're seeing a psychotherapist about that, unless he or she is a recovering alcoholic, he or she cannot understand that.
True.
If you're seeing whatever counselor or guide about that, and I'm not saying that you wouldn't have understanding between recovering alcoholics, recovering narcotics addicts, they would understand the compulsion, because it's not just physical. For example, I was also an addicted, a nicotine addict, an addicted heavy smoker of nicotine, but that was different. That was just really about physical homeostasis of the body. There wasn't yes, there's a psychological aspect in the sense that you end up lying to yourself about justifying your smoking. In that sense, there's a psychological aspect to it, but there's not the obsession compulsion that comes with alcoholism, narcotics addiction, gambling compulsion. So having the fellowship of other people, and
yes,
because they were there before you arrived, they're ahead of you on the journey, and you're actually, for the first time maybe in your life, sitting in a room with people that can actually understand what is your obsession and compulsion like, because it is, as it says in the big book, baffling, cunning, and powerful. And also, are your reassurance, your proof that there is happy, meaningful, worthwhile life after it, because they're sitting there, not regretting any of their story, but delighted that, that chapter of it's over now, and now they're on, the recovery chapter. So twofold. Yes, Joan, fellowship's important for being understood and reassured that there's a golden future ahead if you wish to grasp it. Yeah.
Wow, such a beautiful explanation. In our conversation, you talked about soul with soul, the less of you and more of the divine. Could you explain that for us, please?
Yeah, thank you. So we've already touched upon the. I can sound dogmatic sometimes. I don't mean to be. It's just that I can't help having a certain confidence, dare I say, even gnosis in certain respects. We've touched upon already, I'm going to say, the fact that self-realization, spiritual advancement, is much more of an undoing than it is a doing. What
Yeah,
are we undoing? We're undoing the egoic persona.
yeah,
And that is the cloud cover over the sun that's always there. So we know, don't we, that on the cloudiest of days, no matter how cloudy or overcast it gets, we know that the sun hasn't vanished. We know that it's there
yes.
behind the clouds. So our consider this for a moment. Let's you won't want dead air time on your show, but just for a moment, go quiet, viewer and listener as well, and just close your eyes and look to where you think your thoughts are and ask yourself the question, what will my next thought be? And just watch and observe, see what happens. And I won't do this for more than about 15 seconds, Karen and Joan, so we don't have dead air time on your show. I would typically do this for a minute. And I would do 2 or 3 rounds of that. Now, hopefully, if our dear viewer or listener had, you can open your eyes now, thank you. And if our dear viewer or listener had what we might say a fairly noisy mind, more monkey mind than Lake Placid, put it that way. Just doing that little exercise tends to cause the mind to pause when we ask that question, because we don't know what our next thought will be. And there will be a little bit of a quietening. And if that has worked, and it's not long enough really, you can do that yourself after the show. Just try it. And another question you can ask yourself, instead of what will my next thought be, is where will my next thought come from? And just intently watch, how alert a cat would be watching a mouse hole, daring the mouse to come out, daring the thought to come out. Your mind will go quiet. Wouldn't stay quiet, because we're kind of forcing it a little bit. It's a bit of a hack, really. I'm not keen on hacks, but there's a place and time for them. But it's a hack that demonstrates that A, the mind can be quietened, but much more importantly than that, B, the fact that we can watch, that we can listen to, that we can observe the mind, proves that we are not the mind. Our eyes can't see themselves. Well, we can get a mirror, but then we're not looking at our eyes, we're looking at a reflection of our eyes. So the fact that we can see or hear our thoughts proves that we are not those thoughts. We are what is witnessing, what can witness, does witness those thoughts. Now, everyone will get that intellectually immediately. You won't start immediately living from that. There are practices like transcendental meditation and breathwork exercise that will take us to that over time, to where we're increasingly living from this inner freedom, from this inner peace, as this inner witness of the outer story. So this is the undoing of the persona that evaporates over time, the clouds that are obscuring the inner sun, the inner witness. And that's the inner, what that inner sun is living in is the inner kingdom. And it is one with, in no way separated from, the one being that is all there is, which is individuating itself. We are waves upon that one ocean, facets of that one diamond. And yet also, in another way, sparks of that one fire that they're in a sense have become separated and confined within our human nervous system. And the game, if you like, the challenge, if you like, those words will do for now. They're not great, but they'll do. The challenge of the game, of the experience, is to unite that spark back with the one fire, as it were, that we live as the spark that, and what it means when it says that we are created in the image of the divine is that spark, which is only a speck of all of the divine, is though holistically identical with the divine. That's the sense in which we are created in its image. But we're given free will. We're given free will to choose whether to love the divine or not. Because after all, if we were forced to love the divine, it would not be love. And so we are left to our devices to come to this understanding as, when, and if we do. And it's not, to be clear, it's not that one phase of the human story is in some way better than another. I'm not making that judgment, although we can discern between them, but I'm not judging it as better. They're just different phases of the human
Right.
journey. Yeah.
Right.
We all come in as victims at the mercy of our caregivers, at the mercy of our parents. Then if we do discover personal development, law of attraction, all that, that's great, because we're learning self-responsibility. And for a while, we'll be encouraged by effective manifestation in some areas of our life, some of the time. And then, but it will kind of run out of steam a little bit if it's in our store, if it's in our cards for this lifetime to move on to the next phase of spiritual advancement. And then it becomes undoing all that. So when I prepare to meet with a new spiritual explorer for the first time, the most important thing I need to do, obviously, look at the notes they've shared with me about what they're hoping to gain from the meeting. Obviously, have understood a little bit about their background, but not to the extent that you might prejudge. But the most important thing prior to the meeting is that John is out of the picture as much as possible, and the whole thing is being divinely orchestrated. The less John, the more divine, the more will be accomplished always. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yes.
beautifully said. Beautifully said. It's just very, as Nay said, it's very, very profound. How should someone, because we know that talking to ourselves really matter, how should we remind ourselves on that journey, that process to stay strong? Can you shed a little light on that?
That's a great question, Joan.
Thank you.
I am quite keen on affirmations, I will grant you. But the subconscious knows when we're lying to it. So affirmations like, I am a millionaire, I have a hot, smoking hot girlfriend, I am this, that, or the next thing. The subconscious hears that and says, are you having a laugh, mate? Seriously, what are you on about? So also, if we say, I want £1 million, I want, or dollars, I want a smoking hot girlfriend or boyfriend, I want such and such a career, I want things to be, I want my ducks in a row, all of my ducks in a row. By the way, if anybody ever does have all of their ducks in a row, they'll need to have with them a camera with a very, very high exposure, very, very quick exposure speed if they ever want to be able to prove that to anyone else. You're never going to have all of your ducks in a row.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Your journey of learning would stop in the moment that you had all your ducks in a row.
Absolutely.
So when the subconscious hears "I want," the subconscious says, "Oh, easy day this. I can give you that all day long and forevermore. You want, you got it. You're right. You want. I want gets more wanting, and wanting can, I want really says I lack. So honestly, to be truly authentic with you, what I have to say with you is what Lord Yeshua taught the apostles: "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Beyond this, the self-improvement stuff, it's a question of victory through surrender. Let go and let God, or accept and allow Allah, that we're not being, picky about any particular religion. And really, that's it. Because the divine truth, your divine maker, your creator, knows far better than any egoic notion that you will still be lingering on as long as we're here, as to what your true heart's desire is. And it's almost certainly not what you think it is. In fact, the more you're thinking about what your wants or desires are, it's that. So the first thing is, so an affirmation that I would recommend anyone just try this for a few days, try this self-talk for a few days, and open your mind and open your heart to the possibility that life just might unfold quite magically in the following few days. Try this. My only goal is to relax and trust and allow everything else to naturally arise from that.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
My
That's
only
beautiful.
My only goal is to relax and trust and allow everything else to naturally arise from that. Which is a
Wow.
more modern colloquial way of saying, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things shall be added.
That is so beautiful, because when you could say that to yourself, it really brings a sense of peace
Yes.
within.
Yes. And Joan, does anyone really want what they think they want, or do they really just want peace of mind at
True.
heart?
That's the key. Peace of
True.
mind over everything.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. The peace of mind.
Yeah.
That
Because
is so beautiful.
also because of the detachment that's in that from outcomes. See, if you're making your happiness conditional upon the state of some person or place or thing, then, and that person, place or thing has to be one way or another for you to be happy, well, you might get that, but even if you got it, you can still lose it. So if you can lose,
Absolutely.
so if you're going to lose it, you absolutely are going to lose it. There's not going to be any pocket in anyone's funeral shroud for a wallet. You you're leaving here without. You come in without a purse, and you're leaving without a purse. So whatever we can gain, if we can gain it, we can lose it. And if our happiness is conditional upon anything that we can gain, then we can lose that happiness by losing that thing.
That's
So
so true. Wow.
That is
Wow.
so profound.
That's
It is so
that's
profound. You
that's
know.
one that we gotta always keep in mind and think
Yes.
about, because it is so essential. And would that lead us to attachment? Being
this is
too
really
attached.
about undoing that attachment, isn't it? To pick some wisdom from another religion. It's not really a religion, Hinduism. I prefer the term Sanatana Dharma, which means eternal law. It's set on the battlefield. It's no accident that it is on the eve of battle, and Arjuna's reluctant to face up to his battle, and it's a metaphor, it's an allegory for the internal battle, and also the outer battle to an extent. It's comparable with jihad in Islam, which is really about the inner struggle. And all the great wisdom traditions have this. And in teaching karma yoga on the battlefield to Arjuna, Sri Krishna says, what he says can be summed up really in 4 points. 1, discern your dharma.
Yes.
Or in this sense, that would mean, translate better in English, in purpose. Dharma is one of these wonderful Sanskrit words that's so richly nuanced that no one English word ever does it justice. But in this context, purpose, we might say, or mission, perhaps. Discern your dharma as best you can. You know, I wish I had an email from God every morning in my Gmail. If I did, I would absolutely, that would be my to-do list for the day, and I wouldn't question it one bit. I would happily go through it. So I'm not saying that I always know what is the divine will for me, you know, in precise detail. We're all perfectly imperfect, and on a journey, all of us. And so, but discern your dharma as best you can. 1. 2, go all in to fulfill it. Hang the consequences.
Yes.
Totally
with
agree.
full integrity, full authenticity.
Yes.
No half measures. 3, while detaching from specific outcomes.
True. That is so true.
4, dedicating actions to the divine.
Yes.
Do that, and you're living in the kingdom within.
Yes. Beautiful.
You're giving us great teaching this morning. You're giving us so much great teaching.
Beautiful.
And help us to understand. Wow.
Well, it would be no use without ears to hear them, Joan. So you know, there is this saying that's well known from Zen Buddhism that when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. But the other side of that coin is every bit as true, which is that when the teacher's ready, the student will appear, and it requires both. There's no progress being made ever without both a willing teacher and a willing student. And the divine orchestrates them together. And
that is so true, John.
So the listening that you are both doing today is worth every bit as much, if not more, than the speaking that I've been doing, and is absolutely beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's divine. It's exquisite. To be listened to and understood to this degree and with this quality. Absolutely amazing. Where is the emoji for doffing your hat when you need it?
Yes. So true. So true, John. You know, and that brings me back to when you was talking about affirmations, you know, myself and Joan, every morning when we start our day, we always say this: we are open to wisdom, knowledge, and information so we can help humanity. We say that every single morning. During the day, we say that we are open to wisdom, information, so that we could help humanity.
Yes.
And because of doing that, we get so much of downloads of things that we should be doing. And everything just aligned. People just come into our lives and just help us to catapult and to take that through.
Isn't it miraculous the way that
happens? Oh
my
goodness, it's miraculous.
There is where the magic is.
It's miraculous. It is.
There is where the magic is, because the beauty about that is having that openness.
Yes.
Because then you have the door is open for you to receive.
Yes.
And you know, available.
Absolutely. And you know, A Course in Miracles teaches us.
Yes.
Another amazing text. A Course in Miracles teaches. I've done the course twice. I would class myself as a fail the first time and a borderline pass the second time. And the teacher's manual that comes with A Course in Miracles is absolutely part and parcel of my references for the guidance and writing and so on that I do, you know. A Course in Miracles teaches that giving and receiving are one and the same thing. They're simply two sides of the one coin. And it also teaches us what is a miracle. What is a miracle? A miracle is an expression of love. And it also teaches us that everything that anyone ever does or says is one of two things. It's either an expression of love or it's a cry for love. So what you're doing by starting your day, getting into that frame of mind, heart, and soul, and being really channels for the kingdom to flow through you, for
Yes.
the source to flow
Yes.
through you, the peace to flow through you, the freedom to flow through you,
Yes.
the love, the joy, the ananda, the bliss. By doing that, you are both expressing the miracle of love
Yeah.
and attracting to you those that are crying for love, that they
Yes.
can receive it.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes. Beautifully said. That's beautifully said.
It's amazing. It's amazing when we could just surrender
Mhm.
and just allow the divine to use us to do the work in this world.
And it's perfectly understandable that there will be one of our viewers or listeners who finds the word surrender a bit of a tall order. I was there too, a bit of a tall order.
Mhm,
And if that's the case, try just replacing it with trust. You know,
mhm.
if surrender's too big a mouthful to bite off, try chewing on trust for a while and see how you get on with that. Mm-hmm.
Trust yourself. Trust your higher self.
Yes, it's the antidote to worry.
Yes. When
Yes,
in our conversation also you talk about the principles of do no harm, inner freedom.
yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Ahimsa, it's the first commandment of yoga as well in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, non-violence. First, do no harm. It's also the father of modern medicine, Hippocrates. It's the Hippocratic Oath. And, you know, ladies, I wouldn't be fully authentic if I didn't just, and don't worry, I won't get overly controversial, but I'll just gently touch upon the fact that it's my view. I shouldn't say the fact. It's my well considered view that any spiritual author, guide, influencer, teacher, whatever, who really has nothing whatsoever to say about the tyrannical elephant in the room is whistling in the dark about pie in the sky. Because speaking about first do no harm, we've been seeing the opposite of that on the planet this last while. Instead of informed consent, we've been seeing deceitful coercion.
Yes.
And so that's part of it as well. So it's my view that to uncover, which is the way I put it, to uncover, because we don't need to discover it, we certainly don't need to create it, it's just waiting within to be uncovered, to uncover our inner peace and our inner freedom. To do that has been squandered if it doesn't come with a determination to cause outer peace and outer liberty in the world, a live and let live world in which our God-given, inalienable natural rights of freedom of movement, press, speech, bodily autonomy and the right to defend ourselves against those infringing those, as long as it's proportionate. That has to happen as well. The job's not done until it has, because the teaching is, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So there's lots to do, and I'll just leave it at that, because I know that it's not my place to explode anyone else's YouTube channel or Facebook group or what have you. But hopefully that's acceptable.
Yes, yes. We're living in a time whereby there's a lot of things going on, and we are being put through a lot of experiences so that we can awake to see the truth. And once we could find the truth within ourselves, we would see the truth around us. And that's very, very important for us at this point in time.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful way how you really explain all of these principles that we could stand on to get that peace, find that inner peace, that inner freedom, that kingdom that we all have within our lives. That kingdom is there.
Yes.
But we only got to put in the work and trust ourselves, believe in ourselves, and know that we have that kingdom. It's there. It is there. It is right there.
No two ways about it. And it's really great that you emphasize principles, Karen, because that's coming from the same root of the word that implies first. Principles first. Yes.
Yes.
Take care of the principles first. Take care of first principles, and everything else follows from that.
Yes. Absolutely.
And our consciences are clear,
Right.
which encourages and motivates and fuels more fulfilling of first principles, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we must have clear intentions.
Yes.
We must have clear intentions. It's very important for us. Well, we're wrapping up down to the time, John. Can you give us some tools, one or two tools that could leave with us before you go?
Well, I would go back to that micro practice that we mentioned earlier. It's a good place to start, because anybody who has a mind that they would cause noisy. So just to say what the procedure is. So actually the full procedure is, what you do with this is, first of all, you just close your eyes, and for about 15 seconds, and you can put your finger on your wrist and count 15 beats, and it'll be about 15 seconds. You just watch your thoughts come and go without judging them in any way, and then ask yourself the question, what will my next thought be? And do it, really, really do it, and look intently for your next thought coming for a minute this time. So 60 beats, 60 pulses. And most folk, so it can be a little bit like riding a bike, but most folk will get some quietening when they do that. And then another round of it, and the next time, same thing again, but be even more alert and ask yourself, where will my next thought come from? And you can imagine, if you like, maybe that there are 2 or 3 mouse holes up here where the mind seems to be, and watch for them and kind of dare thoughts to come out, and you'll stop the mind. So that's very, very motivating, because it proves that, as I said before, the mind can be quietened, and 2, you've demonstrated that you're not a mind. You're somebody that owns a mind that you can observe.
Yes.
It's a place to start. It's a place to start. You at least have a glimpse of inner quietude. And then, of course, there are ever so many things to do. Somebody who was keen on my same bias preference, then of course I would teach them the yogic way, or I might teach them Reiki, might teach them Ho'oponopono, whatever it is, ever so many different ways, or pass them on to somebody else. But try that micro practice. And I guess this is recorded, so people can go back and listen to that again to get it, if they need to do that, and if it's not been clear, anyone, please feel free to correspond with me, message, my emails and my contact info,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning, John, to sit with us and to really giving us some tools, some valuable tools that we could use moving into 2023. We can have some clarity about ourselves, trust in ourselves, use the principles for ourselves, and just able to stand on that foundation, that solid foundation, so we could move into 2023 and know exactly what our movie would look like, the movie on the screen would look like for us, And the beauty is that we are given this choice. We have a choice. We have that conscious choice that what we could do for ourselves. A lot of times the outer noise tend to confuse us and tend to make us think less about ourselves. But believe in you, trust in you. And once you could believe and trust in you, that's all you need. And that is what is going to take you through this lifetime. Know
Exactly.
what's your purpose. Know what is your purpose. Ask every day for that wisdom and that knowledge. Ask every day for that. If you don't know your purpose, ask every day for that. And you will get the answer, but you got to listen. You got to learn to listen. As John said, let's sit, find that pause time, and let's listen for those words that we need to hear. It's very important. I want to thank you to all the viewers for taking the time to sit with us today and to making this show a success. When we started this show with all the viewers in mind. So every week we could bring someone on that could give them those tools that could help them to move forward with their lives. Tom Thompson, I just want to thank you so much for holding the fort behind there and helping the show for all these months to be a success for us. Joan, thank you so much also. And before we leave, just want to say thank you to Mr. Banti for inviting myself and Joan to the symposium to be speakers at the symposium in Canada. It is such a beautiful thing when you have good intentions. When things come out from the heart with good intentions, and when people see it's good intention and what you're speaking, people will reach out to you and ask you to go on a larger platform so you could spread that mission to other people. And today, whatever you believe in, just believe in yourself. If you want to write a book, start writing the book. Don't even think about a publisher. Don't think about the author. Not the author. Don't think about a publisher. Don't think where the money is going to come from. Just start writing the book where you are. Because you know what? Everything is going to fall into place for you to publish that book.
Exactly. We could speak
Share
on
your
that.
story. John, I hand it over to you now.
No, I said we can speak on that because the experience, sometimes we get in the way. That's hold us back many times. We could be going to say, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't have the money. I don't know the right kind of people. But once you make that conscious effort and be intentional, and that's your desire, you would truly be amazed how the doors they just start open up. Someone collaborate with you, they recommend somebody to you, and consider it done. But just make that first step. It's so important. And know your self worth, your self value.
Yes,
Lift yourself up
yes,
because know that you are special, you're one of a kind, and you are unique. And you could stand out in your own way and carve your own path moving forward from
yes. Thank you
2022
guys so much.
to
John, thank you,
2023.
Tom, thank you.
Yeah. John,
Thank you guys so much for taking
you're
the time.
great.
Thank you.
No, thank you so
Have
much.
a
It's been an
wonderful
absolute
week.
joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
You took us on a journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute honor, an absolute joy, an absolute privilege. Thank you both so much, and just lovely to have the chance to speak with you. Mm-hmm.
We'll have you back.
Of course. Have a wonderful weekend, guys.
Bye.